John chapter 18. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over the brook of Kidron, where there was a garden which he and his disciples entered. And Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples. Then Judas, having received a detachment of troops and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that will come upon him, went forward and said to them, "Whom are you seeking?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said to them, "I am he." And Judas, who betrayed him, also stood with them. And now I want you to, from verses 1 to 5, we see that one thing that Jesus did was he used to go in a secluded place with his disciples, often to pray. And when these people are coming, they come to Jesus as it's like they're seeking a commoner or a thief. They came with lanterns, torches, and weapons. And you see, the way they call him Jesus of Nazareth, just like that the dude from around. But they did not know Christ as the Son of David. They did not know Christ as the way, the truth, and the life. They saw him as a troublemaker. Now in the verse 6, now when he said to them, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. I am he. Imagine when God told Moses, "I am that I am." You remember? Then he said to them again, "Whom are you seeking?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus answered, "I have told you that I am he. Therefore, if you seek me, let this go their way, that the same may be fulfilled which he spoke of those whom he gave me. I have lost none." And therefore now we see Christ, being wise, understood the situation. The disciples could be in danger. And he says that, "Let me come, let the disciples go," because he did not want them to be hurt. That is the way of a great leadership, situational awareness, because he understood and knew that what was coming. And also he has to fulfill the scripture. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. So Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?" Peter was like, "Hey, if it is down, it's down. If it is what they want, all we shall give." But Jesus was like, no. I do not need you to fight for my battles. Put your sword back to the sheath. God has prepared this cup for me. I will take it. Then the detachments of the troops and the captains and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him. Then they led him away to Annas first, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year. That was Caiaphas who advised the Jews that it was expedient for one man should die for the people. Now we see the word is being fulfilled. Christ is being prepared. Now the sacrificial lamb, here it is. And Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciples. Now that disciples was known to the high priest, and went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter stood at the door outside. Then the other disciples, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to her who kept the door, and brought Peter in. Then the servant girl who kept the door said to Peter, "You are not also one of these man's disciples, are you not?" He said, "I am not." And therefore now we see the words of Jesus starting to be fulfilled up in the life of Peter. Now the servants and the officers who had made a fire of coals stood there, for it was cold, and they warmed themselves, and Peter stood with them and warmed himself. The high priest then asked Jesus about his disciples and his doctrine. Jesus answered him, I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues and in the temple where the Jews always meet, and in secret I have said nothing. Why do you ask me? Ask those that have heard me what I say to them. Indeed, they know what I said. And when he had said these things, one of the officers who stood by struck Jesus with the palm of his hand, saying, Do you answer the high priest like that? So Jesus said that as he was in his doctrine, that he cannot testify of himself, but others will testify themselves. Others will testify of him. And when he did say so, a servant struck him. 23. Jesus answered him, If I have spoken evil, bear witness of this evil. But if well, why do you strike me? Then Anna sent him to bound to Caiaphas the high priest. Now Simon Peter stood and warmed himself. Therefore they said to him, You are not also one of his disciples, are you? He denied it and said, I am not. One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of him whose ear Peter cut off, said, Did I not see you in the garden with him? Peter then denied again, and immediately a rooster crowed. And therefore now we see the fulfillment of the word of Christ, that before the end of the night you will deny me 3 times. Then they led Jesus to Caiaphas, to the praetorium, and it was early morning. But they themselves did not go into the praetorium, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Pilate then went out to them and said, What accusation do you bring against this man? They answered and said to him, If he were not an evildoer, he would not have delivered him up to you. Then Pilate said to them, You take him and judge him according to your law. Therefore the Jews said to him, It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death, that the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled, which spoke, signifying by what death he should die. And therefore now we see there is a movement from Caiaphas, Anna of Caiaphas, to do what? From Caiaphas to, from the high priest to Pilate, who was in charge of this part, or this jurisdiction. And you know, this one is a religious group, another one is a political. And these people are saying we cannot just kill a man. It's not lawful for us. So they brought him to Pilate. Verses 33. Then Pilate entered into praetorium again, called Jesus and said to him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him, Are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this concerning me? Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? And therefore now Pilate is speaking from a political power, political stand of view. He says, Your own nation and your own chief priests, they are the one who brought you to me. What have you done? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servant will fight so that I shall not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. Pilate therefore said to him, Are you a king then? Jesus answered, You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, for this cause I have come into the world, that I shall bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. And therefore now Pilate speaks, and he thinks it's a political something, but Jesus tells him, I come from another dimension, and my kingdom is not of this world. If it was, now it could be war. My servants will die for me. Yeah? My servants will fight. And she will not do what? Be delivered. But he tells them, I came to bear witness. For this cause I was born. This cause to liberate man. For this cause I have come into the world. I shall bear witness to the truth. And what is the truth? That Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And everyone that hears is of the truth, hears my voice. Pilate said to him, what is truth? And when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, I find no fault in him at all. Remember, these people, they had been exiled, and therefore when they saw Christ moving crowds, doing all these things, they saw that maybe this guy is going to cause another revolution, of which the Romans will disperse us, because they had just gathered. When you read through history, you find them, they had been separated, but now they had been brought back and they were under the rulership of the Roman, and they did not want that. The chief priest did not want that. And when Pilate told them, I find no fault in him, verse 13 says, but you have a custom that I should release someone to you at the Passover. Do you therefore want me to release to you the King of the Jews? Then they all cried, saying, not this man, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. And this, in this context, we see, number one, John talks about Jesus being the King of the Jews, and even Pilate quotes him. And he tells them, as per your custom, I have to release one person. And what do? They say, give us Barabbas. And Christ was there, and he took the place of Barabbas, that even a robber should be redeemed to gain his freedom. Yeah, it is wonderful. Let us meet in the next chapter and see how the events unfold. And God bless you.